All right, we are going to start. So thanks for tuning in to Tuesday Tips. So just like always, we're going to start with a little introduction about who we are. So we are part of Jordan District's Health and Wellness team. We're comprised of social workers, a school psychologist, and some school counselors. Our website is wellness.jordandistrict.org. And like always, if you have any questions or a topic you'd like to cover, we're happy to look into that, and you can email us.
Email us.
Yes. So our email is just wellness@jordandistrict.org. All right. So today, this is a pretty timely topic.
I was just going to say this doesn't relate to anything going on in our world right now, does it?
We are going to talk about adapting to changes, which is essentially what we call cognitive flexibility. So today we're going to talk about, first off, I'm Rachel Dangerfield. I'm a school psychologist.
And I'm Sherry Morris. I'm a clinical social worker.
Yes, thank you. So we're going to talk today about what is cognitive flexibility. We're going to introduce the window of tolerance, which I think maybe we can revisit later because it's really good. We're going to talk about why cognitive flexibility matters and what we can do about it. And then we're going to practice and have a little moment of reality. All right, so cognitive flexibility. That is basically one of our brain's executive functions. And executive functioning happens in this part of our brain, our frontal cortex. And it's basically our ability to adapt to behaviors or adapt our behaviors to changes in the environment. So what that looks like in normal people terms is it's our ability to think about things in a different way or even trying something a new way. So when we talk about cognitive flexibility, sometimes, especially when we talk about it with kids, it's easier to talk about what it doesn't look like. So the opposite of cognitive flexibility. So someone that is rigid in their thinking, you might say that they're being stubborn, they're inflexible, they're uncompromising. There's a lot of words that you might hear thrown out about people with no cognitive flexibility. In the school setting, a lot of times when I work with elementary age kids, we call it rock brain because it's just really rigid and stuck. You'll hear us talk about the word stuck a little bit. And oftentimes kids or adults that struggle with cognitive flexibility are very much, it's my way or the highway, which means they're often stuck in a lot of power struggles. So now I'm going to introduce you and let Sherry speak a little bit about the window of tolerance.
So the window of tolerance is a way to think about your ability to manage your emotions, which affects your relationships and pretty much your functioning in the world. When you are in your window of tolerance, you are functioning optimally. You are able to learn when you're in your window of tolerance. You're able to manage your emotions and go with the flow when things happen, as they do all day, every day. You're fun to be around. You're able to have give and take in your relationships, and you're able to calm yourself when you need to calm down. So people generally out of their window of tolerance generally either shoot up into chaos where they're not able to focus, they're not able to settle down, they're really anxious and overwhelmed, or sometimes they shoot out the other way into rigidity or rock brain. You're not able to think or learn when you're out of your window of tolerance, and when you are in rigidity, you're disconnected from your relationships, you lose your sense of humor. Your attitude is it's got to be my way or the highway, and you might feel stuck when you're outside of your window of tolerance in rigidity. The nice thing about this window is as you learn and practice skills and techniques like Rachel is teaching us about today, over time, you are able to expand your window of tolerance. children especially have a smaller window of tolerance, so it's really important that we as parents and educators are that we have a larger window of tolerance so we can help kids develop the skills that they need to grow there, so they're able to handle more and, you know, be a little more flexible.
Yes. Thank you. So why does all of this matter? Why are we talking about flexible thinking? Why are we talking about our window of tolerance? So what we know about flexible thinking is it helps children be better able to cope with change and new information. So I guarantee we can all relate to that's just 2020, right? Every day we turn on the TV or flip our newspapers open or scroll on the internet. And
this year is challenging our window of tolerance and our ability to be flexible.
Exactly. There's tons of change happening all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're flexible, we're able to cope better. And then we also know that flexible thinking helps our children perform better academically and socially. So for instance, with like math, if we have a kid that has rock brain or is really rigid in their thinking with math, they may think that there's only one way to solve a math problem, and they will fight their teacher or their parent about that only one way. But really, we know that there's more than one way that you can solve a math problem. So helping kids understand, like, okay, there is that way, but there is another way. Socially, that is important as well. So if children have social problems, they might be in a fight with a friend. They can only think of one way to handle the problem when really there's a few that can really impact their social skills. So we're going to talk about what we can do about it. So first off, we need to catch ourselves when we're being rigid. We need to teach our child what it means to be flexible and rigid. One way that we can do that is using Plan A and Plan B, which we'll talk more about. And then we're going to introduce some coping skills that you can use. Ooh. So one of my favorite ways of helping kids be flexible in their thinking is we obviously have to teach them, right? So we'll want to teach the children, like Sherry mentioned, while they're in their window of tolerance, not when they're stuck in this chaotic or rigid mindset is the word I'm looking for. Because you won't get anywhere, especially if they're being rigid, right? Because that's the skill we're trying to mold and teach new ways of handling it. In addition to that, you as a parent or a teacher will also want to be sure that you're in your window of tolerance, because we want you in your thinking brain and we want your child in their thinking brain. There are some curriculums out there. I'm not going to go over the curriculums, but in case you're interested, you can just Google them. You can probably just buy them on Amazon or wherever. So one curriculum is Superflex, the other is Unstuck and On Target. And I've used both of those with elementary age children, and I love both of them. They have some really fun activities and they're really good. When you talk to your child about being flexible, it's important to use visuals. So you can do like a little scavenger hunt around your house, around your yard, find things that are hard and rigid and stuck, and then find things that are flexible, and you'll have them practice identifying which is which you can kind of see. I don't know if my picture is blocking it, but we have a hippo and a snake. I was trying to think of what kind of animal would help a child think of rigid, and I think hippos might be a little flexible, but I don't know. To me, they seem solid. And a snake can get through small holes, right? So just helping them visualize the differences between the two, the physical differences, and then you can role play with your kids. So once they know the difference, you can kind of play with it a little bit, and you could talk about, you could like make up a story about once there was this $1 million in a little hole in the ground, and the hippo wanted the money and the snake wanted the money, but you had to slither through some holes and there were some turns and there were all these things, like which one's going to be able to get the money, the rigid animal, the big hippo, or the slippery snake that can navigate and change his body to get through the thing. So you can come up with creative things like that. One of the activities that I loved to do with my students, it was always fun, as we practice, we talk about like, okay, well, say you want to sit in a chair. We're going to practice it both ways. We're going to practice it being flexible, and we're going to practice it not being flexible. So of course we'd start with not being flexible. So the challenge was, can you sit in your chair without bending any of your bones? or your joints or anything like that? Can you keep your knees straight? Can you keep your hips straight? And how's it going to work out for you? And so the kids would try to sit like stiff as a board. And obviously they thought it was hilarious because they couldn't sit, right? And that was the point. So we practiced them sitting normally, being able to bend their knees or hips, whatever, and they'd sit just fine. So then we talk about, well, which was easier, which was quicker, which was safer. So we can kind of show flexibility in that way. And they can really see that and appreciate it, and it's fun for them. So the other thing that's really effective to do with kids, and this works for all ages of kids, is to talk about plan A and plan B. So as we know, especially through 2020, sometimes our plans have to change. And sometimes that's really hard. And adults, we don't always like change. We know adults don't like change. Kids don't like change. So we have to talk to them about having another plan or a backup plan. So if plan A doesn't work out, plan B might work out. And this works out really effectively when the adult models it for the child. So, and sometimes we as adults are really good, like when these things come up about coming up with plan B, we don't always like verbalize what's happening in our minds. We just detour and do whatever. But if you talk out loud to your child and model for them what's happening in your brain, then they can start to see that and recognize, like, oh, we had this plan, but now my mom or my dad has changed like this. So anytime you catch yourself having to make a change of plans, you can talk about it. Or if you have a kid that's really, really rigid with plans, kind of talking with them, okay, if that doesn't work out, what will our plan B be? And just having that set beforehand can be really helpful. The last, I can't remember if this is the last one, but the next idea is to tweak a routine. And this can be really, really hard, especially for our friends with autism. Because a lot of times our friends with autism have a lot of rock brain and rigidity in their routines and things like this. Or even little kids, like you'll see it, or adults. I can get this way. So we all have routines, and routines are so good. And we've talked about why they're so good in past Tuesday tips. But our friends that get stuck, we kind of want to practice with them tweaking the routine. So they might have a routine on how they get ready for bed. So they always get dressed in their pajamas and they wash their face, they brush their teeth, and then read a book. So you can make it a challenge for them to mix it up. And you could do that in multiple ways. You could just move one thing, say, today we're going to start with washing our face. Or you could make it a game, put them all in a hat, let the kid draw them out. So that way the kids eventually learn, I'm getting all the things done I need to, but it doesn't always have to be in the same order. And it can be kind of fun. Or like you could do it driving places if there's somewhere you always drive. So if your kid is really familiar with the way you drive or walk to school, you can mix it up a little bit and take a different turn and talk about what you're doing and show them, yeah, this isn't the normal way we get there, but we're going to be flexible and we're going to try another way. And look, we got here. So if you want more ideas, Pinterest has tons of ideas. All you have to look up is rock brain or flexible thinking. Teachers Pay Teachers has ideas. Like I said, look for examples in your real life or in the media and talk about them. And then another thing is Amelia Bedelia. If your kid's in elementary, she's a very good example of rock brain. And things don't always work out for her because of her rock brain. Let's see. I guess I put it at the end. Where is it? Sorry. Okay, we did skip a slide. That's what I thought. So the other thing is your kid's not going to magically be all excited about changing their routine, especially our friends with rock brain. They're not going to be super on board with that. So we need to make sure our kids have coping skills that help them utilize using plan B and be able to access being flexible. So when we talk about coping skills, we always teach, practice, and model them for our kids. There's all different ones and they work differently for each child, and then one might work for a couple weeks and then you've got to switch again. But here's just some ideas. So you'll want to, deep breathing is a really good strategy. That's a great strategy because they can do it anywhere, right? In the car, at school, at home, at grandma's, at piano lessons, wherever. If things aren't going their way, they can still take a deep breath. They don't look different, it's fine. For little kids, there's lots of visuals out there that you can use, like this triangle you can see on the screen. There's other ones, so you can just Google it and pick whatever one your kids like. You can teach your child to take a break. Like, okay, plan A didn't work out. We have to go to plan B. Let's take a break for a minute. We can help encourage them, think about something that makes them feel happy, go on a walk, talk to an adult, watch a funny video if you have time, read a good book, or slowly count to 10. Those are just some ideas. So when we start to see our children getting out of their window of tolerance, because we are asking them to be flexible, these are some good things that we can do to help them get back into the window of tolerance.
And if they practice these things, then they'll come to them when they need them, just before they leave the window of tolerance.
Yes, I love that. And practicing, like, you can even practice, like, okay, we're gonna tweak our routine tonight for after dinner when we're getting ready for bed. Let's just practice. Let's see. It might be like lunchtime. Let's practice what we're gonna do. And when you start to feel this way, when you start to feel upset, let's practice using your skill. Because like we've talked about, it's important to do it while you're in their window, you're in your window of tolerance, and they're in their window of tolerance. Thank you. So lastly, the last thing you have to do is reinforce your child for doing these things that are hard and being flexible. And even if they weren't completely flexible, even when they start to act a little flexible, where you see them start to access a coping skill that you haven't previously. So maybe they'll start taking deep breaths. They might not feel calmer yet, but you see them trying it. That's massive. That's huge. And we want to reinforce that. And when we reinforce our kids, we want to be specific in our praise so they know what they've done right. And that way we are focusing on what they're doing right and obviously not what they're doing wrong. So you would be like, I really like how you took a break when you were feeling upset about not going to Target. Or like, thanks for taking deep breaths. That's so awesome that you're doing that. Or I love how flexible you are being about our change in plans. Those are all specific so the kid understands what they're doing and how it matters to you. And kids love to please and they want to make you happy. They really do. So we're going to practice. I'm going to turn on this video and I just want you guys to watch this and think about what could be different about this situation. Like if I was the mother of Sheldon, we're going to watch a clip from Big Bang Theory. If I was his mother, how could I teach him and practice with him and use plan A, plan B, or any of those things that we've talked about already? I want you to think about that. Let's see, I'll get it going.
Writing's not that easy, but Grammarly can help.
An ad.
This sentence is grammatically correct, but it's word.
Do you guys mind if I start?
Penny, that's where I sit.
Sit next to me.
No, I sit there.
What's the difference?
What's the difference?
Here we go.
In the winter, that seat is close enough to the radiator to remain warm and yet not so close as to cause perspiration. In the summer, it's directly in the path of a cross breeze created by opening windows there and there. It faces the television at an angle that is neither direct, thus discouraging conversation, nor so far wide as to create a parallax distortion. I could go on, but I think I've made my point.
Do you want me to move?
Well, just sit somewhere else. Fine.
Sheldon, sit.
All right. So that's a perfect example. It's an extreme example for an adult. But even we talked about at the gym.
Or your exercise class, believe me, you don't want to take some lady's spot.
Yeah. So Sherry, did you see anything that that Sheldon could try?
Well, if he had practiced his breathing or had maybe practiced with his mother sitting in a different place, he would, when there was some chick in his apartment, he'd be able to go with it a little better.
Exactly. And like even like working with him plan B. Okay, plan A is you get to sit in your seat. Plan B, what happens? What else could you do?
Mhm.
So socially, he'll fit in a little bit better, and he's pretty funny. I thought that was a great example. So that's all we have for today's topic, unless we hear any questions come in. But next time, which won't be next week, it'll be the week after that. So is it the 24th, maybe? I think it is. We're going to be talking about fostering gratitude to help you have a happier child and a happier life. And it will be really, really great. So we'd love to see you then. In the meantime, like we said, you can check out our website, or you can email us with any topics or questions or anything like that that you have. And we're just really grateful that you tuned in today and took your time out of your day to watch us and learn with us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You were wonderful. I appreciate all your tips.
Oh, thank you so much.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.